Section 20 of Reclaiming Revolution. History, Summation, and Lessons from the Work of STORM, Standing Together to Organize a Revolutionary Movement. This recording is in the public domain. Recorded by the Progressing America Project. Reclaiming Revolution, Section 20. Leadership and Democracy. Experiences. Like all effective organizations, STORM had to figure out how to support leadership while fostering democracy. Like all organizational models, our core general membership structure had strengths and challenges in addressing this question. We made all of our decisions using a modified consensus process. This encouraged, indeed demanded, participation from all members. It ensured that all members had the power and opportunity to have a significant impact on organizational decisions. It also helped all of us to develop as thinkers and political actors. The best way to learn about democracy is to engage in it, and STORM members got to do just that. The general membership had control over STORM's program. This meant that every member participated in decisions about our practical work, which represented the vast majority of our decisions. But if parts of STORM's structure fostered democracy, other parts, along with our organizational structure, tended to concentrate power and influence in the hands of a few people. STORM's core was critical to much of our success. The core's high level of commitment, cohesion, and political and personal unity made it a very effective leadership body. As a result, STORM came to rely heavily on these few members, to provide internal leadership and to represent the organization publicly. This presented a number of challenges to the organization. First, the core and core members had a tremendous, at times decisive, influence on the general membership, even on questions within the general membership's constitutional purview. STORM's reliance on the core put an immense amount of political and personal pressure on core members. And by relying so heavily on the core, STORM failed to take advantage of or sufficiently develop the abilities of other members. When key leaders left, other members had difficulty filling the voids in leadership, such as ideological, practical, or strategic leadership, that those leaders left behind. At times, a few STORM members wielded outsized, almost dominant, influence within the organization while being held to lesser standards of accountability than the rest of the membership. This is a classic trap into which many organizations have fallen. Though never as severe as some outside the organization perceived it to be, this dynamic did surface sometimes in STORM. We established a self-selecting core, entrusted with developing the organization's line and providing political leadership, to address the challenges that we faced early in our organizational development. At that point, STORM was young, and we had only a few members who, A, were politically committed to Marxism and B, saw STORM as their primary political commitment. As historical conditions changed, that is, we became an established local left organization with a large general membership almost entirely committed to red politics, our structure probably should have evolved. For instance, it may have made sense to have the general membership elect the core. But we didn't recognize the need for structural innovation. We made no changes to STORM structure until our second rectification period. We based our structure loosely on a classic democratic centralist model, see STORM Structure, Section 13. We did so with relatively little historical information about, or theoretical engagement with, that model. In all, we tended to approach the question too one-sidedly, falling down on the centralist side of the equation. This was most evident in our decision to make the core self-selecting. With deeper study of this tradition, we could have been more deliberate and thoughtful in designing our structure. By building more intentional structures for democracy, accountability, and leadership development, we could have drawn on the strengths of democratic centralism, such as prioritizing political leadership, clarity, and accountability of leadership, efficiency, while addressing some of its challenges. Lessons. Leadership and democracy are both essential components in any effective organization. But they are sometimes in tension. How to best negotiate that tension varies according to concrete conditions. But an organization must never approach this question one-sidedly. Strong political leadership is critical to the survival and success of organizations, and of the movement as a whole. Organizations need political leadership. They also need a division of labor that ensures that certain core roles are filled, that certain essential responsibilities are met. Clear leadership structures also help keep the dynamics of power and influence transparent and obvious to everyone in the organization. It also allows the organization to hold its leadership accountable. Formalizing leadership, however, does not eliminate the need to develop the leadership abilities of all members. Failure to do so will damage both the capacity and the unity of the organization as a whole. Democratic participation must be both facilitated by leaders and initiated by members at all levels of the organization. Meaningful democratic participation requires study, reflection, and engagement from all members. And it requires that leadership be responsive to and engaged with the larger membership. Leadership bodies need to be intentionally transparent about their internal processes. In a revolutionary cadre organization, a strong line, good practice, and unified direction for the group depend on democratic participation from the entire membership. We need to be aware of, and struggle against, the tendency towards excessive centralization in our organizations. We need to develop organizational structures that allow for clear and efficient leadership while prioritizing democratic participation and leadership development. As an organization grows and changes, so must its structure. We need to study democratic centralism critically to learn from the accomplishments and errors of that tradition. Outstanding questions. What are effective internal structures for political organizations, that is, structures that strike a good balance between democratic participation and debate on the one hand and effective decision-making and accountable leadership on the other? How do we most effectively develop the leadership of people from oppressed communities? End of section 20.